the heat.
You've really got to spend the day before or even 2 days before really focusing on keeping yourself hydrated.
Corn sweat. How Iowa's massive corn crop really does impact the weather.
For every acre of corn, that's releasing around 4,000 gallons of water each day.
And the story behind this incredible fire tornado caught on camera.
From our nation's capital, this is the National Weather Desk.
Well, good morning, everyone, and welcome to the National Weather Desk. I'm meteorologist Eileen Whalen. Well, at least one person is dead and two are missing after Tropical Storm Franklin battered the Dominican Republic. The heavy storm brought heavy floods and landslides to the Caribbean island nation. Many roads looked like this, covered in several feet of water. More than 500 homes were damaged by the storm, along with 2,500 roads. More than a foot of rain was expected in some regions. Well, Franklin now enters the open Atlantic Ocean and will likely become a powerful hurricane sometime Saturday. It could threaten Bermuda next week before a cold front pushes it away from the U.S. East Coast. Now, coastal beaches, however, could see high surf and rip current, so pay attention if you're headed to the beaches. Elsewhere, the Atlantic remains very busy with many disturbances, but no other named storms at the moment. We'll continue to watch them to see what develops over the coming weeks. Well, the heat dome that's sizzled the central U.S. all week hasn't moved much. 105 million Americans face excessive heat warnings or heat advisories today, stretching from southern Minnesota to the Gulf. Triple-digit temperatures are returning to cities like St. Louis, Kansas City, Oklahoma City, and Dallas. Now, the heat moves east starting tomorrow with temperatures in D.C. rising into the 90s. Stefanich Haynock looks at how the threat is impacting Columbus, Ohio.
An excessive heat watch on the way for Central Ohio Thursday. City of Columbus reminding residents of free public places to cool down, like malls and libraries.
We have 23 library locations serving Franklin County. Each one of those 23 is equipped with air conditioning, Wi-Fi, and of course great books, great programs, and plenty of places to sit, hang out, relax. We always like to say, come loiter.
Despite the warm temperatures coming our way, Columbus Recs and Parks says the city's 5 cooling centers are closed, and that in the event of 4 consecutive days of 90-degree temperatures or higher, the centers will open. The heat wave comes as Columbus City Schools welcome students back to class Wednesday. Now that lifeguards are back in class too, community pools adjusting hours. Only 4 pools remaining open, weekends only through Labor Day. This as YMCA locations ask members to check in with their local branches for schedule changes.
Well, the intense heat has high school football teams making adjustments to steer clear of the hottest and most humid parts of the day. High school teams in and across the Midwest moved practices indoors or in the early morning to avoid the heat. Allison Spotswood caught up with one of them in Appleton, Wisconsin.
With the forecast calling for record temperatures, Appleton North High School football made a cool move on Wednesday. The team's usual mid-afternoon practice was moved in preparation for potential player wellness concerns. Rob Somm, the head coach at Appleton North, says the coaching staff adjusts quickly to do what's best for the kids.
This year's been a little bit different. We saw the weather forecast and we're like, we need to make some changes. So staying in contact with our trainer, she lets us know kind of where we're going to sit heat index-wise.
Appleton North High School football started the season off right with already one non-conference win. Training concerns for upcoming games rose, however, with the rising temperatures for player safety and hydration in practice. Cassie Timmers, the head athletic trainer, says water and electrolytes are essential for longevity and recovery.
When it's hot like this, we like to hydrate early and often. So we start, 2-3 days before game time or before game day so that we can get our athletes properly hydrated. The more they're out here, the more they're working in the heat, that dehydration becomes a significant component.
The team also had to reschedule its ice cream social, originally planned for the afternoon, to the morning due to the heat. Jack Motter, a senior and team captain in the program, says there's nothing like ice cream for breakfast.
It's a dream breakfast for a lot of the guys here. No complaints from me and surely no complaints from the rest of the team.
The team aims to set an example for other area sports leagues and putting its players' safety first.
Well, in some places, the intense heat is increasing the risk of wildfires. Some are already burning in Louisiana, where hurricanes and tropical storms are typically the biggest threat this time of year. A statewide burn ban is in effect. The National Weather Service says every parish in the state is under a red flag warning. The state's emergency operations centers were activated Wednesday morning to help battle ongoing wildfires. Well, you've heard it plenty of times. You need to stay hydrated during the extreme heat. Drinking water is the most obvious way, but there are plenty of foods that can also help keep you hydrated. Medical reporter Liz Bonus has some suggestions.
Hey there, everybody. You probably know some of the usual suspects that allow you to eat your water, but how about a few of these? Tomatoes that you see here, 94% water. Bell peppers, 92%. That's as high as watermelon and cucumbers, peaches and strawberries. Hard to resist this time of year. What do you love about them?
Just that you can pluck them right out of the container and eat them all in one sitting.
And while there's no substitute for actual fluid,
we always emphasize hydration, not only with water, but making sure people are getting drinks with electrolytes, different sports drinks.
these high hydration foods also have some electrolytes. Getting these nutrients on a hot day is good. Getting them ahead of time, even better.
You know, you've really got to spend the day before, or even 2 days before, really focusing on keeping yourself hydrated, getting some electrolytes in, because if you're starting to try to play catch up, it's too late.
So think soups. Broth and most other kinds are 92% water. Low-fat milk, 91%. Yogurt as much as 88%. And certain cheeses, such as cottage cheese, are about 80% water.
So how do scientists measure heat domes like the one sitting over the nation's midsection? Meteorologist Ryan Mirando has some answers.
Another strong heat wave is moving across the U.S. right now, mainly in portions of the Midwest and through the Deep South. And once again, it's all thanks to this heat dome that is just exacerbating all of the heat. And this one is particularly strong. The way that we're really able to measure that is through some of the pressure and height levels. So let's say this was a ruler of the atmosphere. Instead of the lines being for inches, it's in pressure levels. And with these heat domes, it ridges these lines up further, and that's how we're able to measure how strong they are. It's how far up they move. And so we put a weather balloon out in the atmosphere and measures the heights at each specific pressure level. And in fact, in really the bulk of the heat in Omaha, Nebraska, they recorded a height of 6,020 meters at 500 millibars. For some reference, that shatters the old record of 6,000 meters that was set back on July 18, 2011. So not is this only giving some high dangerous heat, it's also a record-breaking heat dome.
Well, cleanup is underway in Arizona, just south of Grand Canyon National Park, after heavy rain fell earlier this week. The town of Tusayan received 3 inches of rain Tuesday afternoon, creating flash flooding up to 3 feet deep. All that water flooded homes and vehicles. Most of the roads were quickly cleared, but some areas are still dealing with large amounts of mud. Officials say there are no reports of injuries. And crews in Portugal are battling several wildfires, and there is a risk even more could be coming. Over 100 municipalities are under a maximum fire risk alert. Nearly 400 firefighters using 13 aircraft are fighting the flames. Officials say the fires do not pose a risk to people or communities. Well, check out this incredible video from Canada. So it shows a fire whirl, or a fire tornado, that formed last week over Gun Lake north of Vancouver. It's a pretty rare phenomenon. Several factors contribute to its creation. So you need high fire intensity, strong winds, and air mass instability. You also need adequate vorticity, which is a measure of the atmosphere's ability to spin or rotate. Now, the region's complex terrain, downslope winds, and a passing cold front were all of the ingredients needed for that to form. And if you're looking for more great weather content, be sure to follow us on social media. We are on all of your favorite platforms. Just search the National Weather Desk. And coming up here on the National Weather Desk, well, we'll hear from a woman who was driving her car when it was picked up and slammed back down to the ground by a tornado. Wow. And we'll also find out how corn can impact the weather.
Well, high pressure is pushing off towards the east, and what that means is we have Clouds moving in, a couple showers possible for the day today, especially off towards areas in New York, Pennsylvania, southern New England as well. The rain becomes much more expansive throughout the New England region for Thursday night and into the day. On Friday, we'll see periods of moderate to at times heavy rain Thursday night into the day Friday, and high temperatures today topping out in the 70s across most areas.
I'm meteorologist Jonathan Myers, and here's a look at the Mid-Atlantic region. Looking good, Maryland all the way down to Virginia, all the way up to Pennsylvania, Delaware. As we head into the later morning hours Thursday, big batch of rain, though, over the Appalachians, sinking southbound, could lead to a few more midday and afternoon spot showers and thunderstorms area-wide, so keep that in mind for the PM commute. Temperatures in Baltimore in the 80s, 70s north and east, up into the 90s south. That's the scene here.
Good Thursday morning. I'm meteorologist Michael Arenberg, and here's a look at your southeast regional forecast for this Thursday. Mostly sunny, very hot conditions over much of the southeastern states. Only an isolated shower here or there across parts of South Florida and perhaps moving into the mountains of Tennessee and North Carolina and North Georgia later in the day and during the evening hours. Check out these high temperatures. 101 for Tupelo, 93 Atlanta, 98 in Nashville, 90s everywhere, including Florida and the Gulf Coast.
You are watching the National Weather Desk.
Well, some farmers are still assessing the possible damage Hillary and the rain it brought did to their crops. Now, usually water is a good thing that crops need, but in certain stages, timing is crucial. Leslie Molina found out which crops could be hardest hit in Kern County, California.
It's still too early to see the impact the unexpected tropical storm that hit California over the weekend had on local agriculture. But it doesn't mean it's not top of mind for farmers in Kern County.
We only have one crop a year and we have to make it count.
We followed up with Jenny Holterman, an almond farmer in Shafter, who we spoke to before the storm.
So the rain came in on Saturday night, actually. It started raining in the Shafter Wasco area where we farm, and we were hoping it would hold off until at least Sunday night, but it seemed like it came in earlier.
She previously shared that the storm was happening during their harvest, a time where it is crucial almonds don't get wet, and that they were doing everything they could to avoid having the almonds on the ground. But even with all the precautions, the rain still managed to cause some issues, not only for them, but for other farmers.
It just seems that, a lot of people had almonds on the ground and even the grapes.
We spoke with experts who told us the industries that could potentially have been impacted the hardest by the heavy rain.
Crops that could be at risk would be, table grapes, processing tomatoes, almonds if they were harvested on the ground.
Most people would assume all this extra water would be a good thing. And it is, just not right now.
The amount of rain we received was extremely positive, but when it hits this late in the season, it could cause damage to crops where they're unharvestable and non-consumable, which then really impacts the farmer in a big way.
Well, in Iowa, it's not the weather impacting the crops, but the crops impacting the weather. One of the major contributors to humidity in the state this time of year is corn. Meteorologist Garrett Hyde explains how.
And Iowa is typically known for its corn, and it's usually pretty good. But Iowa is also known for its humidity, especially throughout this time of the year, for the exact same reason. And crops this year have gone through drought, severe storms, and now a second heat wave this week. Iowa's soil, thankfully, is fairly resilient and able to hold a lot of moisture to help with those dry times. This year has been difficult, though, as rainfall has been anywhere between 2 to almost 12 inches below normal across eastern Iowa. And the corn by now is starting to work its way into its mature drying stage, or specifically, as Farmer Tom was saying, the dent stage itself. Now is a bit of a good time for the corn itself to have that secondary round of heat to help out with that drying period.
Like I say, it's probably mid-August, around this time frame is when we reach full maturity, and so then once again, yeah, that's probably when it's probably trying to get rid of as much moisture as possible and stuff, and concluding into what we're seeing possibly here. So in the long run, probably the warmer temperatures would be best, especially in that September time frame too, where we could really start drying down some of this corn. You get a nice breeze and some warm temperatures like that. It can really take off 1 to 2 of moisture a day.
But the heat this week is not really coming at a good time for us humans. The mature corn is releasing a lot of extra moisture during its drying period, and it's going all right back out into the atmosphere, which we like to call corn sweat, or more specifically, evapotranspiration. That's when moisture is released from the plants and evaporates away from the leaves out into the air. And the wind tends to accelerate that process a little bit more. And keep in mind, too, for every acre of corn, that's releasing around 4,000 gallons of water each day. And across the 12.4 million acres across the state of Iowa, that comes out to around 49.6 billion gallons of water released per day from the state of Iowa alone, and that's roughly around 75,000 Olympic-sized pools worth of water being released. And that excess moisture tends to drive up the humidity, which even drives up the heat index, very similar to what we're seeing right now, all thanks to this guy.
Well, as we draw closer to the end of August, many plants are beginning to show their flowers, and experts say bumblebees are busy pollinating right alongside. Eric Peterson takes us to Green Bay, where one nature preserve is working to keep the insects and the work they do healthy.
At Woodland Dunes Nature Center in Two Rivers, Wendy Lutsky has been busy.
We call this the Dorothy R. Star Butterfly and Bee Garden, and the variety of bees is amazing.
She cares for this space, which is full of flowering plants and bumblebees.
It's just really fun to work in the garden and just hear them buzzing around me. And it's not something I'm afraid of. They're so busy doing their pollinator job that I just work around them.
Just down the road, at an 80-acre parcel called the Henry Wetland Restoration Project.
This was a soybean field.
Nature Center Executive Director Jim Nickelbein says the 6-year effort is showing results.
Surprisingly well. I'm amazed at the diversity of native plants out there. There are more than 150 native species of plants out there growing right now. They just did an excellent job seeding it. They picked the right plants that responded to the soils that were out there.
Nickelbein says from grasshoppers to ladybugs, pollinators come in different forms, but they all have an impact.
A lot of the food that we eat is pollinated by insects, so we directly depend on them. There are all kinds of little insects that are working away, spreading pollen from one flower to another.
Back at the Nature Center, pollination continues. Wendy Lutsky says planting gardens at home will help.
They can take the ideas of any of the plants that we have growing here, and they can put those in their yard and have success.
Well, last week, a tornado ripped through portions of Rhode Island. One woman was on her way to work when the funnel cloud picked up the car she was driving, spun it around, and slammed back to the ground. Carl Małowski spoke with her about the incredible experience.
Honestly, I was prayed the whole time.
A drive to work last Friday was anything but ordinary for Dallin Giorgio. The Gloucester woman had just pulled onto I-295 south in Johnston when...
Then all of a sudden, I noticed just a cluster of trees moving. And then I saw objects like flying around.
That's when she saw a scary sight, a tornado hurtling towards her. Moments later, it scooped her car up and lifted it several feet off the ground, spinning her around.
I was terrified. I thought I was going to die. I thought I was rolling down the highway, but apparently it lifted me and spun me. And then I heard it. Then there was another violent crash. And that was when I hit the ground.
Video of what appears to be the same tornado was picked up by this Tesla driving on 295 North at around the same time. Giorgio doesn't know how long she was airborne, but her best guess is about a minute.
You have no concept of time in that situation.
When the funnel eventually slammed her back down, Giorgio says 2 people ran to help her. She tells 10 the car was her husband's Dodge Charger, and it was her first time driving it. The car is totaled, but Giorgio shockingly walked away with just a mild concussion and whiplash. She's thanking the car's safety features for that.
I didn't hit the steering wheel. My head didn't hit anything. I was just perfectly cocooned. Not one cut, not one scratch, not even a bruise. Yeah, very lucky.
Wow. Well, time now for a short break, but first, let's take in views of beautiful Alaska from above.
Good Thursday morning, everyone. I'm meteorologist Andrew Buckmichael taking a look at your weather story across the Midwest. This excessive heat continues to drift its way farther to the east. South Bend 96 today, Milwaukee 95, even Cincinnati 97. We get a little cooler air to start moving its way in, though, for the coming days here. Friday, we are only seeing triple digits to the far south part of the Midwest with some scattered thunderstorms, and most of us should be in the 80s or 70s by the time that we get into Saturday.
Good morning. I'm meteorologist Alex Garcia. Here's a look at your regional weather. We're starting off a little cool in El Paso at about 69. Everybody else sitting into the 70s, into the 80s. A real humid start to the day. Most of the cloud cover and the moisture is sitting a little further to the west. We'll see more scattered showers as leftover rain and heat kind of come together to create them. Later in the afternoon, temperatures will get back up into the 90s and triple digits. I'm meteorologist Alex Garcia. That's a look at your regional weather.
Well, hi there, everybody, and a good Thursday morning to you. I'm meteorologist Shannon O'Donnell. Temps back in the 80s and the 90s for most of the interior of the West. We've got low 70s around LA and San Francisco, courtesy of the marine layer back there around coastal California. But otherwise, here comes some more of that subtropical moisture. The remnants of Harold pushing into the Four Corners region, spinning some scattered showers and potentially some flash flooding toward Denver and Salt Lake later today. And that's the scene from here.
Weather Window, presented by the National Weather Desk.
Dangerous heat persists in the nation's midsection, prompting some to switch to early morning football practice all week. In some places, daytime temperatures will feel like triple digits today. Cleanup continues in California after Hillary triggered damaging floodwaters that left behind a bunch of silt, and some roads are starting to reopen. In between Hillary's remnant showers, this double rainbow captured in Nevada.
For more content like this, like the National Weather Desk on Facebook.
Well, as we near the end of August, the angle of the sun is decreasing. This means we're going to start seeing more of something called radiative cooling. Meteorologist Emily Santum explains radiative cooling and what it means for you.
Radiative cooling is the cooling of the Earth's surface, specifically overnight and when the sky is clear. During the day, solar radiation heats the ground, and the ground absorbs it and stores it. At night, the heat will slowly begin to escape to the Earth's atmosphere. When there are clouds, they can act as blankets and send the heat back down to the surface, preventing overnight temperatures from dropping too low. On clear nights, though, the heat cannot be retained and will escape into the atmosphere. This causes the cooler nighttime temperatures.
Well, thank you so much for joining us. I'm meteorologist Eileen Whalen. Tomorrow on the National Weather Desk, we'll look at ways you can reduce your energy costs during extreme heat. Until then, make it a great Thursday, everyone, and we'll see you right back here tomorrow.